Every business is actually the same, really. Like, you've got a product or a service that you have to market and sell, and then you want return customers. Now that I can kind of look back, a lot of learning and skills and development and stuff came from just being in that space. You kind of like forced also to learn those things, like a customer's like in your face, like shouting at you. There's not email, there's no phone call, like they're there, and you have to learn how to like damage control pretty quickly. I studied marketing, advertising, and communications, and I spent 6 weeks in an ad agency, and I hated every single moment of it. I was a product manager. I then started building customer success teams, moved towards more operations, health tech, construction tech, quite a bit of hospitality tech. And then, I was the CEO of a hospitality tech startup for a while. And since then, I've kind of been consulting and helping startups from a bunch of like different angles, because I've been exposed to a lot of things over the years. Most founders will know this, but people is probably the most important thing in any business. I mean, I've been hiring people for over 20 years now. It doesn't matter what you're hiring them for, but startups specifically, because again, I was bootstrapping myself and there just wasn't enough like time. And in South Africa, nobody had those paging solutions yet, even in food courts and things. And that was actually the better part of the system. Like right now, it's one of those things that the bell wasn't great, and in big things it wasn't great. But actually, did they really need it solved that way? And would they pay for it?
Big enough problem.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Like, you can kind of get communication, and people have been servicing restaurants and hospitality and things for decades before that without it. I guess that whole part, and maybe we weren't like really smart enough, or I wasn't smart enough to pivot at the time and think of, hey, I should be actually going to food courts where people want to walk around the shops while they're waiting for their food, like I saw in the US. I just wasn't operating in that kind of, I guess, space. I was more in the restaurant space, not in the fast-moving, like, takeaway arena. That was actually my first, I guess, like, deep into what I would call actual tech. So although it's gaming and casinos, I was very heavily involved with, what were the games that they were creating? What did the platform look like? How do we accept payments? How do we use SEO to drive, like, monster amounts of traffic into the casino, which is players, but the equivalent of that is, like, how do you drive people onto your product or your landing page and things like that now? We actually implemented like a show and tell type thing where one of the customer success managers would bring in one of their customers once a month, and we would do like a live show and tell where the customer would talk about how they use the product and their business and the challenges and things. And that was actually for devs. We'd bring in all the devs and the product managers so they could hear the customer talking, but they would get to be able to ask the customer questions about how they use the product, how they're solving things. And a lot of customers, especially in SaaS, you find out that people use your product like this. I'm yet to meet an engineer that doesn't have opinions and thoughts and ideas on better ways to improve the business or the product or whatever it is, or go to market parts of the product. I think the key thing, as whether it's a CEO or whether it's just a leader in the business, is